How's it going? This is Keanu Yamamoto with the Coachers Podcast, in here with Coach Justin Starck, head coach and athletic director for Thurston High School, located in Springfield, Oregon. Coach, just to start it off, man, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from, your progression, family, things of that nature.
All right. So I'm originally from Salem. I'm a South Salem Saxon. Played at South Salem for Dave Johnson and Randy Wagner. Proud Saxon. I was real young for my grade, and I was a late bloomer, and got a little bit of recruiting attention, but not enough to warrant a full scholarship. So some coaches that were looking out for me recommended that I go to a junior college. They recommended Walla Walla Community College. So off I went to Walla Walla, Washington, and had 2.5 glorious years there. I did what they call a gray shirt or blue shirt. Went to school part-time that first fall, and then jumped in full force and played 2 years in Walla Walla, and was really fortunate to have quite a few offers coming out of Walla Walla, and eventually settled on the Oregon Ducks. Played for the Oregon Ducks in the fall in 1992 and 93. Was just a year away, just missed that Rose Bowl year of 94 by a year. That was a big year, but made some great friends and knew those guys real well, and finished there and had a cup of coffee with professional football. Had a training camp with the Los Angeles Rams, and then went over to Europe and played a year in NFL Europe with the Frankfurt Galaxy.
Oh, awesome.
Played a year of arena football with the Portland Forest Dragons. That was fun. Made some great friends there and relationships, and played for a great gentleman named Stan Brock, and was proud to know him and play for him. And while I was kind of dabbling with professional football, I met my soon-to-be wife. Was down here in the Eugene area. Was actually serving as a graduate assistant at the University of Oregon in the off season, and then my path took me to Thurston High School to coach a little football. And when you're doing spring, NFL Europe or arena football, it's those spring leagues, and so you've got some time in the fall and winter. And wound up here coaching in the fall, and met my wife to be, and we were together when I was playing arena football, and I just came back here and settled in, and joined this staff as a high school football coach, coaching the offensive line and kind of learning my craft from a gentleman named Don Stone, who was a longtime head coach at Thurston, and I stuck, and as it turns out, I haven't left. So was here as an assistant for quite a while, took over as the head coach in 2003, and I've been doing it ever since. About 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I think, maybe longer, I took the job as the school's athletic director on top of being the head football coach, and that's kind of been my role ever since. I'm the athletic director at Thurston and the head football coach, and couldn't be happier.
That's awesome. I know Grant. So Grant is your son, just graduated from Oregon State. Originally was at Nevada, transferred to Oregon State for his last 2 years. How did it feel to have a Beaver as a son and then playing at the University of Oregon?
Yeah, that was fun. That was an interesting ordeal. He was when Grant was in high school, he had a knee issue, and he didn't get heavily recruited. Coach Mahalicek at Oregon State was definitely aware of him and liked him, but they were all worried about that knee, and he went down to Nevada and got the knee repaired, and had 2 good years there at Nevada. I think had a really good sophomore season there, and was put himself in a position to be able to find a program that was in a better place. They were in a tough spot because they had lost their head coach, and they were in transition, and things weren't going well. So the recruiting process got going, and we looked at all the options, and as it turned out, it really came down to staying kind of on the West Coast. He had some options on the East Coast, and looked at the West Coast schools, and had already eliminated the Arizona schools, and that was ironic. And, Arizona State's success this last year and whatnot. So we kind of narrowed it down to UCLA and Oregon State, and we talked as a family, and we just wanted what was best for him, and we knew that Coach Mahalicek was a dynamite offensive line coach, and so he went with the coach, which they say is a huge mistake in recruiting, is to commit to a coach and not an institution. But I think he'd do it again. He loved his time at Oregon State. But as it turned out, Coach Mahalichuk wasn't there for him both years. He went on to Michigan State, but I don't think Grant has any regrets.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, he's where did he sign with the CFL? I just saw that
Well, I
on
signed with
social news.
the Hamilton Tiger Cats,
Yeah.
but that was it was kind of fool's gold. I did the research, and it was one of his only opportunities, and so he jumped at it. But when I looked at their roster from last year, they only keep 2 American offensive linemen. They're typically the offensive tackles are the Americans they keep, and they had 3 guys play tackle for them last year. 3 guys accounted for every start at offensive tackle. And 1 guy started every game, and then 2 other guys split the starts at the right tackle spot. And as it turns out, all 3 of those guys were in camp. So there wasn't a lot of space available. He was going to have to beat out an incumbent and a veteran,
Sure.
and a guy that had been in that league and had been in NFL training camps. And we said, hey man, just enjoy the experience and go for it and give it your best shot. And you never know. And as it turned out, it didn't last too long. He was released, and so were most of the American linemen that were brought into camp. They were brought there for numbers. So but it was a good experience for him, and he has no regrets there either.
No doubt. Well, kind of backtracking. I've always kind of followed you from distance and had a lot of respect about you from my time at Linfield and just kind of recruiting the local area. But I got the pleasure to come down and visit you this past January, and we had a conversation, and we were talking about just kind of the role as a father and just being so knowledgeable about the game and so successful as a coach, and how you were able to really just kind of separate the two. Coach Starck as a father and Coach Starck as the coach. So can you kind of elaborate on that and kind of touch on that as far as, you and your wife, sitting in the stands and watching Grant, and how you're able to kind of separate who you are as a coach and who you are as a father?
Yeah, as a father, you're just that unconditional support. You're just happy to see them be healthy and play the game they love, and you're a fan of the program. I was a huge Beaver fan for those 2 years, and I'm still a fan of the program. So I support both schools now, but just a huge fan. And my wife's only a fan, right? She knows the game because she's been married to me and she loves football, but she doesn't know line play the way I do. And so I would watch line play at both Nevada and at Oregon State, and I could see when there were mistakes being made. I knew that who was responsible for certain things, and I would cringe, but I'd bite my tongue and just be that unconditional support. It didn't help to have Dad say, hey, I think you gave up a pressure there, or what happened on this play, and we didn't have those conversations, and for the most part still haven't ever had those conversations. We're just our conversations were how proud I am of him, and how much we love watching him play, and had to give him a few pep talks this year. It was a tough season, and it was a tough road, especially following the Air Force game. I think that between the Nevada game and the Air Force game, those were definitely
We don't
low
talk
points.
about that. We don't want to
Yeah, I
talk
know.
about
I
that.
mean, we didn't talk about it much either, but we definitely had to encourage him to keep his chin up and stay positive, and to be a guiding force for his teammates.
Yeah. Well, kind of transitioning into coaching and leadership and things of that nature. You mentioned that you played professionally after college, but really, kind of why did you get into coaching, and what really made you stick with coaching?
Yeah. So I don't want to say lost, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And it was in Frankfurt playing for the Frankfurt Galaxy, and I came home and I had a shoulder injury that I needed to get taken care of. So I had to pass on an opportunity to go into another training camp because I needed to get my shoulder fixed. And so I got home and I had some time on my hands, and one of my roommates in Walla Walla, who was also from Salem, was serving as an assistant coach at North Salem High School, and that was our crosstown rival. So a lot of bad blood there. But he's like, hey, why don't you come out and help us out? You can coach the JV offensive line here and come help us out. And so I'd never coached before, and I jumped in and was coaching the JV offensive line at North Salem, and just fell in love with it. There's nothing better than a kid learning something, learning a technique, learning a skill, and mastering it, and then having success with it, and seeing the smile on their face that came with the success, and then having them say thank you for teaching me that. Thank you for being my coach. And it just made a huge impression on me. And if that what I just described as a drug, then I was hooked, because I just really enjoyed that, and it was also a really nice way for me to still have that competitive football thrill, of the Friday nights, or in that case it was Thursday nights. I also helped on the varsity staff, but we still had the game planning. We had the thrill of the game, and being in the arena in a different capacity was still a thrill. And so I realized that I didn't want to let that go. And so once again, I did that, and then I came back down to Eugene to do some studies. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to apply to be a graduate assistant for the Ducks. And I got that, and I was able to be a grad assistant for the Ducks in the spring. And when I was rehabbing and taking care of some things, and really enjoyed that. Got to see the college side of things, and then jumped in over here at Thurston, and like I said, I've just been hooked ever since.
Yeah, that kind of segue me into my next question. Was obviously you've been coaching high school ball for a long time. Has there ever been a fork in the road where, like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, or man, I kind of want to go coach, at the college level, and give that a try again?
Yeah. So I get asked the college level question a lot. My roots are too deep now.
Yeah.
I've kind of really, really dug in here, and a change of profession would not be in my best interest. I know the hours, not only the hours that you guys put in, but I know the volatility of the profession, and I know that you've got to be ready to move on a moment's notice, and there's just no guarantees. And at this point, I'm 53 years old. I kind of like
That's young, baby. That's young.
It is young. I'm still young enough to play a lot of golf.
Yeah.
And spend
I'm
time
going.
with
I'm
friends.
going later. I'm going. I got a little 340 tee time at OGA.
That is perfect. OGA is a great course. They hosted the state championship this year.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So I enjoy golfing, and I enjoy the life that I've built, and I enjoy seeing my wife a lot. And I know I wouldn't see her much if I went down that road. So anyway, so that just wasn't that really never was an option. We flirted with it a little bit. My staff, after we won the championship in 18, we talked about if one of the small college jobs came open, if Western Oregon or Southern Oregon or Eastern Oregon or something like that came open, that maybe we would be interested in taking over one of the D3 or NAIA or D2 programs and giving that a go. But that never came to be. So anyway, what's the first part of the question besides?
Oh, I was just asking if there was any, a point in your career where you didn't want to coach.
Yeah, no.
I know when I was doing the GA thing at Boise State and Oregon State, like you're talking about the hours, and sometimes those wee hours in the morning, you're kind of you're second guessing a lot of things.
I haven't. This whole process, I haven't had those thoughts or doubts, but I do at where I'm at now, with my responsibilities and just the time management. It's weighing on me a lot. Every year is more and more difficult, and so at the end of each season, at this point, I give myself a month, and so I always wait until we get through the holidays, because we've been really fortunate. Usually we're playing to late November. And so I'll give myself the month of December to not think too much about football. And then after the new year, each of the last 3 years, I've asked myself, do you have the energy to do this the way you need to do it? And because I'm not going to shortchange the kids or the program, so I have to make sure that I have the energy, and it's in that I've got the heart to give it what it needs to be successful. And the answer to that question has not been no yet. But I know that day is coming, and I know the decision's harder every year. And I know that there's going to be a year where I say, you know what, I don't have the energy to do this the way I need to do it. And when that day comes, and I'll let everybody know, and we'll hopefully find someone that's really good to take my spot.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it a little bit, talking about once the season's over, you take a whole month off and not think about ball. What is your self-scout process like as a head coach?
Yeah.
Are you thinking culture, structure, processes, systems first, and then X's and O's later? Or
Yeah.
what does that look like?
It's always systems first. It's my staff is number one, is figuring out my staff. Like that's huge. The staff, if at a high school level, if you have the staff buy-in to the system of what we consider our culture, if the staff's bought into that, then then you're on your way. If you have issues with your staff, if guys are disgruntled, things like that, that weighs heavy on us. And so I always look at the staff first and figure out what my staff's going to be. Then once we've got our staff, we meet and we talk about the areas, the needs for improvement in terms of culture, in terms of systems, in terms of all that. Um, we go through that. We look at what we want to build on, what we did well. And the next thing is we're going to self scout. We're going to go into, we use Huddle. We're going to self scout. We're going to self scout ourselves. We're going to look at everything that we did and run reports and see which things were hurting us. We self scout during the season also, but we do a complete self scout at the end of the year. And then after we've done that self scout, we look at our returning talent and we try and build a system that's going to complement their skill sets. So some years we may not have a tight end. Some years we may not have a kid that could play fullback or something like that. Some years we might be light on defensive linemen and heavy on linebackers. So that's going to, guide our scheme, on what we do. And so that's the next thing. And then once we have our staff set, we are aligned on what it is we want to improve on, what it is that we want to get rid of. We've got our self-scout. We know what we want to do. Then we usually have a retreat. We meet and we really sit down and kind of hammer things out. We go to clinics and we always steal as much as we can from clinics. We stole something really good from the Nike clinic this year. It's actually the Coach of the Year clinic now. It's not sponsored by Nike anymore, but we stole some good cultural stuff there, and obviously some X's and O's. And then when we come out of clinic season, we're ready for spring ball, and that's what we're in right now. We just completed a really great weekend with the team, and we'll be going to a team camp here in a couple weeks.
That's awesome. What team camp are you guys doing?
We're going to go to the Southern. It's not Southern Oregon University. It's just the Southern Oregon team camp. Coach Chin, who is down at Southern Oregon, is at North Medford now, and so he used to run the camp at Southern Oregon, so he knows how to put on a camp. And so Coach Chin, Coach Singler, Coach Womack down there at Crater and South Medford and North Medford have invited us and Coach Hyatt at Summit. And so the five of us are just going to get together and practice together and do some scrimmaging and get after it for 3 days down there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You talked about, kind of the most important thing being the people that you hire around you and your staff. What are some of the values? What are some of the characteristics that you're looking for, when you're hiring?
Yeah, man.
A staff member.
And
I know that's a loaded question. I know you can say
it is. I'm going to be honest with you because I am honest. So football IQ is massive. However, if a guy is the smartest football guy in the room, but he's not loyal, if he's not loyal to me and to our program and our system, it does create problems. So loyalty is the number one thing. I need guys that are bought in and that would just, run through a wall for you, that would do anything for you. And we all just need to be united and bonded. If one of us makes a mistake, we keep that in-house. We work on those things in coaches' meetings. We don't go public with things, and we really just try and take care of each other and cover that. And guys that are loyal is number one. Number two is guys that have great energy. Like we need guys that bring the juice at practice. Bad practices are on coaches. They're not on players. When we introduce new concepts, we're going to have bad, moments in practice. Sometimes it can be a whole bad practice because we introduced a new concept. So introducing new concepts can lead to kids struggling, and we need guys that can coach them through that, bring that energy. Then the final thing is absolutely football acumen. Guys that recognize things quickly. That's big. We have guys that are really good on tape. They're really good at planning in the off season, but they don't identify things in that moment, in that second, and make quick adjustments, both in scrimmages, games, whatever it is. Guys that just see the game well, and for some guys, that's just a natural thing. They're born with it, and some guys have learned it through being a GA, or someone taught them how to watch tape, and someone taught them how to identify things, or guys learned it as a player. But some guys haven't, and some guys don't. Guys that don't, I make them assistant coaches on our JV or freshman staff, and see if they can develop it. But the guys that are on our varsity staff, I need them to be able to, diagnose what's going on quickly after a practice. What is it that we were struggling with, and what kind of drills or teaching can we do to fix those things, or in game. Obviously, now we're blessed with sideline replay now, so we can take a look at stuff and fix it on the fly, which is helping high school catch up with the college guys.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we really just got that last year with Catapult.
Yeah.
And I wish we had it the year before, because the year before I was calling out personnel and kind of looking at the run game and just kind of the front play, because I was a defensive line GA with Coach Shalangi.
Yeah.
But I vividly remember it was a third down. I think we were playing Washington, and we were an exotic team on third down, and we had some type of pressure, and we had one player who was kind of notorious for kind of messing shit up. And we didn't have the catapult, and I didn't see what happened on the play. So I got an earful, you got a very tasteful earful from the DC there, but that was fun. It was definitely a learning process right there.
Yeah.
But kind of going on, you talked about culture a little bit. I don't want you to share anything that you don't want to share, but anything in regards to your coaching philosophy, like what is important to you, and like how you go about transpiring that and communicating that to your guys and your staff.
Trust.
Yeah.
Trust is number one. They got to know that we care about them and that we want to put them in a position to be successful. We care about them as people, as football players, and we got to build trust. So everything we do is to build trust, and then with that trust comes accountability. If they don't trust you, it's really hard to come down on them and hold them accountable. So if we build the trust, we can hold them accountable, and then accountability is huge for us. We have core covenants, as most people do, and our kids develop them on their own with my guidance, and this is just about us, just focusing on those core covenants and things that are most important to us, and really relying on those covenants to guide us, and holding guys accountable. And our team holds each other accountable now. We have teams within the team. I know a lot of people are doing that. So we have 4 teams within our team, and those kids are all competing all the time. And everything in those competitions is about commitment and showing that dedication and just showing up. Some of our most dedicated players aren't great football players, but they have a value that is immeasurable to their teammates, because they know they can count on them. They know that, when they show up for 7-on, they show up in the weight room, when they show up for any team event, they know that guy's going to be there. And so we have a draft. We draft these teams, and it's the funniest thing, man. It has nothing to do with athletic ability.
Is that the coaches, or is that kind of senior leadership?
I have 4 team captains that are the team captains. The first thing they do is select a co-captain. We do commitment coins. I'm not sure if you're familiar with commitment coins.
No.
It's a military thing. If you're given that coin, it's yours for life. You carry it with you everywhere you go, unless you're in the shower or swimming or something like that, or training. Otherwise, that coin is part of you. It shows your commitment to the team for a lifetime. You keep it with you at all times. And if you get one of those coins, it's a huge honor. It's the greatest honor. And so our 4 captains got those coins, and they had some time to reflect and decide who they were going to select as their co-captain. They awarded those co-captains coins. So right now we have 8 coins circulating in the program, and then that captain and co-captain, they selected their team, and I oversee the draft. Our coaches are also eligible to be drafted, our assistant coaches, and I'm the only person that's not eligible to be drafted. I oversee the whole thing.
So what's the coach's role in all of this?
Our assistant coaches?
Yeah, like if they get drafted, I'll be there.
Their role is to be there, to be there for those guys. Like last night, we had semifinal softball and baseball games, and we reward everything. We reward community service. We reward supporting other programs in our school. We reward our GPAs. We reward attaboys from teachers on staff. We also have point deductions. and disciplinary stuff for the opposite of that. So anyway, our coaches were all there last night watching our baseball team. Our softball team was playing right behind them. We all went to the softball game afterwards, and every person that is there is worth a point for being there. And so we have a point system going on, and we're all trying to earn points through good deeds and doing right by each other, and then by being accountable and showing up for training, showing up for 7-on-7, showing up for summer workouts. Like all of it is goes into factors in. So yeah, the coaches are part of that. And if we get every single member of a team at an event like last night with a coach, they get double points. And so they'll all take a picture. We have an internal mobile app that we communicate on, and the kids will take a picture of all of them, say, hey, 14 guys from Team Dedication are here. They'll shoot a picture and put it on the mobile app, and then I keep track, that way through that. I monitor their GPAs. I monitor their community service, things like that. It's a blast. Kids love it. But we go into that draft, and, man, the kids are honest. They're like, man,
this guy's going to flake. This guy's a flake. I can't have him on the
Exactly,
team.
man. They're like, I'm not taking him, and we'll still have 20 guys on the board, and they'll say, we have no more selections.
Yeah.
Like, you got 20 guys on the board. You're not going to take them? We have no more selections. We're done. This draft is over, because they know they can't count on those 20 guys. But then there's some guys that I'm surprised. I wouldn't think they'd take them. Yeah. And he's like, no, I got this kid. I talked to this kid. He's going to be there. He told me he's going to come through this summer, and I believe in him. And sometimes that's all a kid needs, is to know that someone believes in him. And he had a teammate that believed in him, that went ahead and drafted him. His track record hasn't been good, but he's going to have an opportunity to show up and be there for his team. And so it's just hilarious, the kids that are taken first, man. We have kids that are in ASB that are super good students, that are really smart kids, highly involved. They're not great football players, but, man, they get picked up right off the bat because they know that they can be counted on. They know their GPA is not going to hurt the team. They know they're not going to say stupid stuff in class or get a referral. They know they're going to be there at workouts and give their best. And so that's what we value, is that accountability, that dedication, just being there. Can I count on you? That's the biggest part of our culture.
I think that's genius, because not only, like you're mentioning, you're building up accountability and trust and cohesiveness, but at the same time, you talk about oversight, and you're seeing how your players are viewing other players, because a lot of time, or other players, and sometimes, with coaches and players, there's a disconnect as far as, okay, as a coach, you might view X player as this, but really, players know this kid's bullshitting or doing something not right, or doing something below the line type thing. So I think it's kind of cool to you can kind of get a gauge on what everyone else thinks about.
They know. We're at camp this weekend. We held the draft at camp. We were there together for 4 days, Friday through Monday, and they were basically conducting interviews. Like, they're walking around camp and they're interviewing guys, finding out about them. They're getting to know the freshmen that they didn't really know, finding out. The main question was, hey, what are you doing this summer? Are you working? Like, what are you doing? They want to know their availability, and if they could count on them to be around this summer. It was fun.
That's pretty cool. Kind of going into just to piggyback off of that. I mean, that's great stuff. Who have been some of your kind of greatest influences throughout your career, and where did you get the coin, the accountability coin thing that you were just mentioning?
So that goes all the way back. The coin goes to my assistant coach, Alan Gilbert. Read a book called, looking for it behind me here, called Make Your Bed. It's Admiral William H. McRaven, and it's about Navy SEAL training. And the coins were big with those guys. And he read that book and came across it, and he's like, we need to do this. And so we used a lot of the trainings in that book. And so that's where we got the coin. And I actually presented on it at the Nike clinic some years back. And Oregon City High School sent me one of their coins. They adopted it.
That's cool.
And did the same thing and sent me the coin. So it's been fun.
That's cool. Kind of go back. Who is yeah.
So it's been coaches. Right. It's been coaches, big time. Started with my offensive line coach in high school, a gentleman named Lytle Cowell. excellent man, and he just cared, and it's people that have been able to invest in and believe in me through failure and through bonehead moves, guys that have stuck with me. I went on to community college, and a gentleman named Mike Levins, who's an absolute legend, Walla Walla Community College, was our head coach there, and he was a tremendous influence on me. And then I go to University of Oregon, and I've got two good ones, man. I've got Steve Greatwood and Neil Zambukos, and I don't know how you do better than that, man. I was really lucky, and those guys co-coached the offensive line, and they were massive influences on me, and I was a knucklehead half the time, and they stuck with me, and I was able to GA under those guys when they were there. Just really good stuff. Actually, that's not true. Zoomer was there. Wood was not at Oregon when I was GAing. But anyway, just been able to work with those guys, and so it's my coaches. My influences have been coaches. I had a grandfather that was big into sports, and I spent a lot of time at their house. My parents were divorced, went through a divorce, and my dad wasn't super involved in my day to day. I'd see him on weekends once in a while, and so I kind of was looking for that influence from a male figure. And so my grandfather was big into sports, big into baseball and football and tennis. We played a lot of tennis. So you're always just gravitating to those father figures, those people that can just support you and support you unconditionally. Like I said, you're going to fail. You're going to do some dumb things. And when people can support you through those tough times, you build trust, and that's what I try and do with our players. I can't tell you how many times I've had guys in here that have made really bad decisions. And we just talk about not letting it define them, and that you believe in the best version of them, and you want to help them achieve it. So.
If you could go back, or if you could right now, go back or give your younger self some advice. If you were your younger self's mentor, what are you telling your younger self?
Oh my gosh, I'm not sure I can say this publicly. I was a screwball. I really was. I loved to train and I loved to play football, but I also I kind of went hard at too many other things too, and I was just kind of wild all the way around, which. I don't know about you. I don't condone some of the things that I did in any way, shape, or form, and I definitely don't want my players, doing a lot of those things. But some of the kids that I've coached that have an edge to them, that are a little bit ornery, that tend to fight a little bit, and get in some trouble in class and stuff like that. They're really good players. Like I kind of like players that have an edge. We just have to contain it, And I had an edge, and I was a fighter. I was a heavy set kid, and when I was young, if you made a joke about my weight or whatever, I had something for you. And so there was some tough times, I was in the principal's office a lot when I was a kid, so I was a little bit wild, and so I wish somebody could have.
It's that Saxon mentality right there. That South Salem breed.
I guess. I just wish somebody could have been able to get through, and I'm sure people tried. And I tell you, I made a huge mistake my sophomore year and got in trouble with the administration. And there was nothing worse than having to go in and see Dave Johnson, our head coach, and explain to him what I had done and why I had done that, and be accountable to him. That was a nightmare. That was torture. So. I would have tried to have settled myself down and focused, and that would take me all the way through my time at Oregon. I do wish that I had had better training, or just been a better natural leader, or had better training on how to be a leader, because leadership's about sacrifice. It's about making sacrifices. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And I had the wrong perception of what leadership was. I thought it was about what you say, and it's really about what you do, and it's about caring. It's about getting to know your teammates. It's about listening more than you're telling or talking. And it's really about being able to read the room and read the team and support those guys, and be someone they can count on and trust. And I learned that afterwards. I didn't learn that in college. I wasn't a great leader, and I wasn't a team captain. I was at Walla Walla, but I wasn't at Oregon. And I made a mistake at Walla Walla and lost my captainship for a while. So, I was a little rough around the edges.
I love it. Kind of last question in regards to coaching, and talk a little bit about construction of the team building. You touched on it with your culture. We were talking about a little earlier, but what was, well, I guess, what is the greatest challenge, or what was one of the greater challenges in your career that's popped up because of coaching?
Oh my God, the greatest challenge for me was digging our asses out of the hole when we went to the state championship in 2008, and we looked at our roster and we knew that our talent was going to dry up after that class. Like, that class was good, and the class behind them was good. Also, the class which would have been 2010 was really good. We knew we had two good classes, but we didn't have good incoming groups at all. And the OSAA moved us to play 6A, and we took our lumps, man. We hung in there for a while with those two classes, and then it went south, and we were winning 1 and 2 games a year, taking our lumps from Jesuit and from Central Catholic and those schools. And so when you're not doing well, your policies and your standard will get tested, and you have to make some really difficult choices as a coach because you don't have the talent, and you have to figure out what you're willing to tolerate from kids and still allow them to play. And we allowed too much for 3 years. We allowed too much, and the more we allowed, the worse we got. And our talent level wasn't good anyway. And so finally, after our 1-win season, we talked as a staff, and I said, man, if we're going to lose, we're not going to lose like this. Like, we're gonna lose the right way. So we finally drew a line in the sand, and we said, these behaviors that we will not tolerate anymore. We absolutely will not. We will not be dictated to who's gonna only play offense or only play defense. We're not gonna, you're not gonna dictate to us when you're gonna show up, and stuff like that. And so we just finally set a standard that was a championship standard, even though we weren't a championship team. And we dug our asses out of a hole, and we were in a bad one. And I was probably on the verge of getting fired. Thank goodness I had a great principal that believed in me at the time and was willing to see us through it. But it was rough. It was rough. And so that's the greatest lesson I've learned, is that you have to have your standards, and you have to uphold those standards at all times, because if you don't, you will pay the price for years and years to come. And you may not be able to get out of it. And thank goodness we were able to dig our way out.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that testimony. That's a really good testimony. I know we talked about it prior to us hopping on, but my daughter had a question for you. Daughter's Anella. She's 3 years old. Got a son that's about 1.5 years. My beautiful wife named Haley. But my daughter's question was, who is your hero and why?
Well, like I said, my influences have been my coaches. My hero, when I was a child, and even now, was Mean Joe Green. And I know that she will not know who Mean Joe Green is, but he did a Coke commercial, and I was a huge Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and I just been a Mean Joe Green fan. And when I was testing for pro day at the University of Oregon, guess who was a scout for the Miami Dolphins?
That's freaking awesome.
Mean Joe Green walked into our weight room.
Did you go up and chop it up with him for a little bit?
I didn't chop. I was so nervous, man. I shook his hand and said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir." That was about all I could get out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was Mean Joe Green, and I'm sorry it's not a more glamorous answer.
No, that's good.
I wish I could tell her it was Taylor Swift or something like that, but it was Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So kind of going on to, I call it the construction of the team. Other people call it, team building. But what does the word team mean to you?
Yeah, it's about sacrifice. It's about being willing to make sacrifices for the greater good, whether that's changing position, saying no thanks to an invitation to go do something, on a night, missing it, not going to a concert. It's just about sacrificing the things that are fun and convenient for you in order to be a part of something bigger than you, which is a football team, which is just being part of a team. We have to make sacrifices. And so I believe great teams are willing to make sacrifices for one another. They love each other, and they want each other to be good, and they're willing to make sacrifices to their own personal best interests, or what they feel are their best interests. They're willing to sacrifice their free time and make sure they get good grades and stay eligible. So that is a hard concept to teach 14 to 18-year-old kids.
Yeah, sure.
So
I think 18 to 22 is Same thing too, man.
Yeah, man. It's the biggest thing. It's all about sacrifice,
Yeah.
and we're willing to sacrifice for. And that's it goes back to the military and all those things. You talk about like Band of Brothers. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Um,
I made it to like episode 6, and one of the guys I GA'd with, Tristan Gebbia, Tristan?
yeah,
You get to meet Tristan. He swears by that show, and I made it to episode 6, loved it, but just kind of one of those things I just haven't gotten back to watching.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I got through it, but anyway, it's just about having each other's back, and just
Yeah,
being willing to be there for each other.
yeah,
And man, teams that do that are special. I mean, they
yeah,
are special, and you know it. And when you don't have it, you know it too. You don't tell them. You don't tell them they don't have it because you're never going to give them an excuse to fail. Robin Hill told me that. I was on my recruiting visit at University of Arizona. He was a line coach at Arizona. You remember Robin Hill?
I don't.
Okay, yeah. He was the head coach at Fresno State and coached in the NFL for quite a while. And and they were playing SC that night, and he's like, "These guys don't have a chance. We're in trouble. We can't beat these guys, but I'm not going to tell them that because we'll never give them an excuse to fail. Never give them an excuse to fail." So that stuck with me, and they beat them. They wound up upsetting USC that night.
Yeah. That's kind of been the fun part of being within college coaching and being on the other side of things. I think as a player, like your coach, the good coaches, the great coaches, exactly what you're saying, man. They always sell it like you're gonna win. Just instill the utmost confidence and belief that you guys can go out there and execute it. And I can't tell you, probably can count on two hands, recruiting back in January. How many coaches be like, man, we just don't got it these next couple of years. And they're just really, really realistic. And,
Yeah,
as opposed to just kind of blowing fluff and so on and so forth. But,
it's hard. I tell
yeah.
you, the hardest thing is how to address the team after a tough one.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. I would
Oh
love to hear
God, it's
your
the worst.
process.
It's the worst. I mean, sometimes all you can do is tell them you love them
Yeah.
because you don't have words, and sometimes you tell them life ain't fair, and sometimes you tell them we just weren't good enough tonight. And shit, we went to Jesuit one time, and they had the Kirkland guy that's at UW, and
Yeah.
they had all these massive guys. I'm like, man, you guys want to compete at this level? We were right next to their weight room. Their locker room was right next to their weight room. I said, you got to get in there. I said, these guys have been in that room. I said, you got to get in the weight room. And that was when we were down. And so, yeah, that's the hardest thing is knowing what to say
Yeah.
after a game, a tough loss.
I've always wondered that if that's something that like head coaches kind of premeditate prior to the season. Like, okay, if X happened, how would I address it? And like almost develop like an outline or almost like some sort of structure. So like if the opportunity ever did present itself, God forbid, but like you kind of have an idea of what you want to say.
Pre-game speeches, yes.
Yeah.
Post-game speeches,
No.
no, not at all.
Is there ever a game where you were like, fuck, I just kind of surprised myself and I kind of killed that speech?
Yes, and I've done the opposite too. So I've had good and bad days, that's for sure. Yeah, there've been a few where I've walked out, the coaches are like, "God damn, you got me fired up. That's awesome."
Yeah.
Where they're fired up. And then there've been a few where everyone's kind of looking at me going, "What the hell was that?" So you just never know.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You talked about sacrifices um, being necessary for a great team. You talked about trust. You talked about a little bit of cohesiveness. Is there any other factors aside from talent that will separate, what you're talking about, a great team, a championship team, and, like a good team, average team? Are there any other factors that are important to you or that you've seen kind of prevalent?
Yeah, depth.
Yeah.
Depth. We got to have depth. So if the injury bug hits, can you withstand it? Can you endure that?
Hmm.
You could have a great, starting 22 or whatever, but you could be a couple injuries away, and that's where we are now. I think we got the chance to be really good this year, but we're just a couple injuries away at some key spots from being average at best. So yeah, it's depth. I wish it was in terms of culture. It's absolutely it's trust, believing in each other. They gotta like each other too. They gotta want to spend time together. They gotta want to talk ball away from the field. You know what I mean? When we have groups that come to me like, "Hey coach, we were talking about this and can we do this?" Back in '08, before we played for the state title, they were like, "Coach, we're so good at 7-on-7. What do you say we rent a van and just go all around the nation and play 7-on-7s all summer?"
You could have started the trend. That could have
Yeah,
been you. That could have
yeah,
been you.
yeah.
You
And
could
I
have
was
started
like,
it.
man, as much as I would love to do that, they're like, we could do it. Let's do it. I'm thinking, oh my God. So, but yeah, that's how committed they were, you know. And yeah, we've had some groups like that. And then you have some groups that's the other thing you asked me about, like knowing when it's time to hang it up or this and that. Energy is one thing. The other thing is there are times where I have to truly ask myself, do I want this more than they do? You know, and when you truly feel like A, you want it more than they do, and B, you cannot motivate them. Like, I've lost the ability to motivate this team. I've lost this team. That is a bad sign. So
Yeah.
those are the things that will tell me it's time to move on.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you're talking about earlier as far as the shared accountability and your teams and team captains and co-captains, the teams within the teams. So you answered a lot of my questions. Really in that first part. Um, is there anything you guys do outside from that? Obviously, you guys are encouraging to go see other events, other teams play, community service. Is there anything that you guys do? You guys mentioned the coaches retreat, and you guys mentioned the team camp. Is there any other team building things that you guys do to kind of enable that process of trust and continuity?
It's so the only other thing is we're very fortunate that we have a class um, called Football Fundamentals, and so we have the majority of our team in a class together, and we train as hard as we possibly can. And the greatest thing that brings a team together is just absolute grueling, torturous workouts. And we don't have enough of them. I think I've gotten soft, to be honest with you. I think I've gotten soft. And I used to have a guy who was a Beaver, a former Beav, who trained our team. And he was awesome, and he loved the kids and connected with them. And he was hard on them. And we did a lot of up downs and a lot of punishments and stuff if things weren't done to the standard. And I feel like I've had to like pick up the slack because he's not with us anymore. He had some major health issues, and he's not able to train kids anymore. And I don't think I'm as hard on him as he was. But we're together all the time. Like, we train together multiple days a week. And I think camaraderie is built in the weight room. It's built through training. It's not built, necessarily on a field. It is built in the day-to-day in our training. And I think that the more you sweat and the more you bleed and cry and do all those things together, the more you endure together, the stronger the bond. And that's the band of brothers thing. So that's the only other thing. Like, we do camp in the spring and summer, we do our team stuff, but really it's just the day-to-day. It's just the day-to-day grind with those guys. And if we push them and they embrace it and they love it, then they bond. And then we have some groups that don't like to lift. They don't like to be in the weight room, and they typically underachieve. It's crazy. Some of my best players didn't like to lift, and they wind up getting hurt.
Yeah.
It's like, God, man, you're one of the best youth football players I've ever seen in my life. And you get to your junior and senior year, you can barely play because you're getting your ass kicked out there so bad. Because you won't lift weights, and you didn't put a coat of armor on your body to protect yourself. And that's just training. So it's a funny deal.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, aside from winning, what other metrics do you use as a coach to define, success?
Oh my God, that's easy, and it isn't winning. It isn't winning at all. It's invitations to weddings, invitations to graduation parties, bumping into a former player at a concert or at the fair or anywhere. Those are the things that tell you if you've made a difference, and those are the things that fill your heart and last
Yeah,
for a long, long time. And that's what it's all about.
that's cool. I like
That's
that.
the most important thing.
Does any of your former players ask you to marry them?
No, but my wife has married a couple. My
Oh,
wife,
really?
yeah, my wife
That
oversaw
counts. That
one of my
counts.
former players' weddings.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, shoot, man, I really appreciate your time. Just kind of to conclude, is there anything um, else that you wanted to share in regards to
No, this
coaching,
is
leadership, anything like that?
No, not at all, man. I shared it all, pretty much an open book, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you doing this, man. This is cool,
No,
and
I like it, man.
can't wait to listen in.
I'm excited. I didn't share this with you. I stepped away from Oregon State at the end of the month.
Uh-huh.
Wife went back to work, and I really miss the guys like you're talking about your why and why you coach, and just being an impression or having an impact on a certain player and making a difference in their life. So I really miss that. I was surprised I don't miss the ball side as much yet. We'll see
Uh-huh.
when fall comes around what that looks like. I'm sure I'll be chomping at the bit a little bit. But I just wanted something that could keep me connected. Um, I could keep learning, keep growing, and then keep establishing and meaningful relationships. And this was a
Yeah.
perfect thing for me. And this is almost kind of selfish because I get to sit and chat it up with coaches with a shit ton of experience. Like we've been on this for 50 minutes. I'm going to go back. I'm going to jot my notes down, and I get to share this with other people. So I'm really
I'm gonna
excited about
tune in.
this. And I appreciate you being the first one. Coach Dan Lever
Yeah.
was supposed to be first last week, but he
Who,
flaked
who
on
was
me.
it?
Dan Lever.
Oh, Lever was. That's good.
Yeah. No, he's
We're playing Silverton.
Oh, are you?
Oh yeah, we got him week 2.
All right. Yeah. So Lever was supposed to be on this weekend, but he had some stuff come up. But I'll be on with him. I think tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. Cannot wait to hear. Are you going to stick mostly to high school coaches?
So my intent, and I'm glad you asked that. So my intent was to really, I want to do it local and I want to do it high school. And then once I start getting my feet wet and getting more comfortable with the process, getting comfortable with my operation, use my college connections that I've established, throughout the years that I've coached, and really dive into that. But thanks for asking that question because you're an athletic director. Are there any people that you oversee, whether it's at Thurston or that you've come across that you're like, wow, I'm really impressed, whether that's soccer, basketball, volleyball? Like, I don't want it to just be a football because,
Our
coaching is
wrestling.
teaching or
Yeah.
wrestling, like really any sport.
Our wrestling coach has been the national
Okay.
coach of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Okay.
Phenomenal. So he would be one of my first recommendations. His name's
Okay.
Mike Simons.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if you know anyone in the Oregon
contact.
wrestling world, they'll know Mike.
Mike Simons. Okay. Yeah. Shoot me over his contact after that. I'll make sure to touch base with him because, when I first was thinking about this, I was like, oh, I can do an interview every day. But now I'm at home with the kids, so I got to change diapers and kind of accommodate to their needs first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to, touch as many different sports as I possibly can and learn as
Heck
much
yeah.
as I can. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being
I'm
the
gonna
first
listen in. You've got a fan already.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, man.
Cool.
I'm about
Appreciate
hopefully I can shoot a 90 today. That's
Good luck.
all right.
I shot 97 at Corvallis last weekend.
You playing Tristan Tree or you playing the club?
No, I play in the club. I got a friend who's a member.
Yeah, I played there one time for a tournament, I think. And this is when I really started getting into golf. I think it was 2 summers ago, and I started getting down to that 90. I was like, oh, I got a chance. And then I go shoot at the club, and I think I shot like a 110, 150. And then
That clubs, it can be tough.
and then we went right into fall camp, so I never picked up the club again until
Yep.
the fall and spring.
Yep.
All right,
Stay
Coach.
this summer.
I appreciate you, man.
Okay, you too. Have a good one.
Take care.
Thank you.